You ready, guys? Yeah? You're supposed to say I was born ready. You weren't born ready, son. All right. Good morning, Rabbi. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is dedicated for a speeding completed for Hashem our Rabbi Farhi, Chana Batzima Fega, and as well for Rabbi Eli Abadi, Eliyahu Shimon ben Mazaf Fortuné, a dedicated loving memory of Ms. Lily Safali Nishmat Leah Bat Chana. Her philanthropy has reached so many throughout the entire world. And the week of Cold Brew is sponsored by David E. Ash in honor of you and your substantial capacity to do good today and every day. And I don't know who has just sponsored the amazing bottoms of these new things. This is very sharp. I don't know what's going on over here. There's a new addition to the Beit Knesset. Is the bottom of these things instead of these guys that crack all the time and fall off the table. Okay, wonderful. We're rocking and rolling. Wait till you see the new porch, by the way. If you guys took a look. Have you taken a look? Yeah, Baruch Hashem. Okay. We added a little bit of extra space. It looks beautiful. All right. Let us begin. I want to start by asking a question, which I think is a beautiful question. It's one of those questions that after you hear, you ask yourself, why didn't I think about it? The other day we mentioned that the Pasuk tells us, Lahagid Shvacho shel Aharon, that Aharon did like God commanded. I asked the question, why is that a big deal? You'd expect that from a tzaddik. If God told him to do something, he's going to do it. And I gave the answer that I gave many, many years ago when I was a ninth grader in yeshiva and I had to write this assignment. I gave the answer that the Pasuk tells us, Bahaalotecha, and one of the reasons why Bahaalotecha is written is because there was a ma'aleh, there was steps in front of the menorah, and Aaron HaKohen was the giant. So the menorah, whether it was 18 tefachim or 17 tefachim, machloket, but it was not, 17 tefachim is 6 feet. If he was a giant, 6 feet, he didn't need stairs for it. To tell you, Lagit Shvacho shel Aaron, Aaron understood, if there's stairs there, there's a reason for that. Remember we said that Pshat on one of the first days of the Parshat Beha'alotcha, I think it was Sunday morning. Now, why am I bringing this up to you? Because whether or not Aaron needed them or didn't need them, the one thing that we do know is that there were stairs in front of the menorah. Either there was stairs or there was a stone, like a platform for him to step on, a ma'aleh, in order for him to step on. Now the problem is, we've already encountered a pasuk where the pasuk says, "Lo ta'aleh b'ma'alot al mizbechi," that a person is not supposed to go upstairs to the mizbeach, but rather they built a ramp in order that there should not be stairs to the mizbeach, because the pasuk says, "Lo ta'aleh b'ma'alot al mizbechi." Don't walk upstairs to my mizbeach. What's the reason why someone shouldn't walk upstairs to the mizbeach? The pasuk then continues and says, "Asher lo tegale ervatecha alav," that you should not reveal your nakedness upon it. Now, the Chachamim are quick to point out that the Kohanim, whether or not they were wearing a tunic, right, and they were walking upstairs, so their legs were moving up and down, which would have revealed their undercarriage, yani, okay? That was not a problem because the Kohanim anyway were wearing mechnasayim. They anyway had, underneath the tunic, they were wearing like pants, like a short pair of pants. So anyway, nothing is being revealed. But the idea of walking in a way where a person is revealing underneath what's going on, that's what's it called? That's a very important thing to pay attention to. So my friends, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because it tells you Hashem does not want you to walk in this way because it's not appropriate. It's not kavod to walk that way where you're lifting on a stairs, on a ramp. A person doesn't need to take big steps, lifting their legs to go to a next step. They could walk in smaller paces and they'd be able to walk up without having something be not sanua. So the question is, if the pasuk tells you that, how can it be that there's a ramp for the mizbeach, and when it comes to the menorah, what did they build? Steps. Fantastic question. Now, in a certain sense, there's even a more difficult element to this question. And I want to quote to you the words of the Midrash that the Rav Zilberstein brings, the words of the Midrash that make the question even more difficult. Says the Midrash, Asher lo tegale ervatecha alav, that you should not reveal your nakedness upon it. Says the Midrash, Yalkut Shimoni, Mikan Amaru, we learned from here, Aseh keves lamizbeach, make a ramp for the mizbeach. Asher lo tegale ervatecha alav, Alav iyata posea psia yetera. On it, that you should not reveal your nakedness upon it. On it, you should not reveal your nakedness. You should not take large strides. Avalata posea psia yetera. But you do. You're more than welcome to take psia yetera behechal in the kodesh or bekodshei kodashim, and in the innermost sanctum of the Beit HaMikdash. That you would have thought, shehaya b'din, you would have thought that you're not allowed to do so. Where is the Mizbeach, by the way? The Mizbeach is not in the Kodesh. It's not in the Kodesh HaKodashim. Where is it? It's in the Chatzar. It's outside in the courtyard. You would think if God is strict on tzniut in the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash, how much more so in the Kodesh, in the holy sanctuary, and how much more so in even the innermost sanctuary, the Kodesh Kodashim. Yet, says the Gemara, says the Midrash, even though you would have thought that, but the Pasuk comes to tell you, Asher lo tegale evatecha alav. Don't reveal your nakedness upon it. Boy ata posea. Aval ata posea psia yitera be'echal bet kodesh kodeshim. Now the question is, the Midrash clearly makes the derasha, but why is the Midrash teaching us that law? Why is that the halacha? Is something that we have to answer. So, the answer to this question is brought by the Imre Emet. The Imre Emet writes something magnificent. He says as follows. When it comes to the Mizbeach, the ramp that you have over there is part of the avodah of the Mizbeach. Why? Because we know there are 4 elements to the avodah of a korban. One of the elements of the avodah, as an example, you have zrika, putting the blood on the Mizbeach. You have Kabbalah, the receiving of the Adam in the vessel, right? You have Holacha is one of them, okay? So the idea of Holacha, Rabbi, listen carefully, the idea of Holacha is taking the Evarim, taking the parts of the Korban that's supposed to be brought on the Mizbeach, bringing them up to the Mizbeach. That Avodah, that Holacha, that moving of something from one place to another, that's called the Avodah. One of the avodat of the korbanot. So therefore, to go up the stairs, to have a lack of tzniut or psi'ah yetera in the avodah while you're doing the act of work, that's a problem. But everywhere else, like when it comes to the menorah, which actually is in the kodesh, is in the sanctuary, going up the stairs is not avodah. What's the avodah of the menorah? To light the candles. But there's no avodah that's done in the going up on the stairs. Now, this sounds to be like a tremendously technical Dvar Torah. So I asked you a good question. I answered you an answer you don't really care about. Let's be honest. But my friends, first of all, there's tremendous lesson in this, and as well, the differentiation is something that cannot go unnoticed. The first thing I want to point out is what Rav Zilberstein says, and this is magnificent. He explains that if the Torah is telling you that there's no place for psi'ah yitera, which can mean an element of a lack of modesty in the way a person is dressing, or it could also mean psi'ah yitera when a person takes large steps, the Gemara equates that with a sense of arrogance and pride. Okay, so a person that's like running, that's walking like, that's a big person who's making themselves big. Okay. That's considered also an element of arrogance. Now listen carefully. The Beit HaMikdash is one thing. But in our day, in the lack of a Beit HaMikdash, what is the holiest place that we have? The Beit Knesset, the synagogue. The Tefilot, we know the Gemara in Berachot tells us that the Tefilot are instead of the Korbanot. Shacharit is Keneged, Shacharit and Mincha are Keneged the Korban Tamid, of the morning and the evening. And Arbit is Keneged, is in turn in representation of the bringing of the Emurim where they would burn overnight. Each one of those requires an avodah. So therefore we find, especially by Sephardim, that they were incredibly careful with elements of arrogance or lack of modesty in the Beit HaKnesset. So much so that Chamovadia writes against a person even crossing their legs like this in the shul. Asur, he says. Did you know that? They kill you. I had a guy come to me the first time, smacked my leg so hard to yank it, to hit it off. These Chalabi old timers, they were not playing around. I've had my leg kicked in Israel once. Because you don't even think when you're doing it. You just like pick up your leg, you're praying, something like that. The guy kicked my leg. Bet Knesset. How are you sitting like that? You're putting regel al regel. Just as an aside, by the way, Chacham Ovadia says that if a person is doing it to hold up a sefer in order to read, or his sidur, because it's harder for him to see, or it's more comfortable for him to read, then it's mutar. Why? Because then the act of raising your leg that way is not one of casual comfort in the Bet Knesset, but rather it's a function of you being able to pray better. So in such a case, it's actually mutar. However, the idea itself is something which is incredible. The idea that a tefillah is avodah is something that we have to ask ourselves, are we taking in the Bet Knesset a pisi'ah yitera? Now, what was the idea of pisi'ah yitera? We already said. Two elements. One is a lack of modesty. And what is an act of arrogance? What does a lack of modesty look like in the Bet Knesset? And what does an act of arrogance look like in the Bet Knesset? Now, obviously, when you say modesty to people, the first thing that people think about is dress. You know, are you wearing, are the women dressed appropriately? But it's so convenient for us as men to say that the mitzvah of modesty only applies to women. It's not true. We've quoted this many times. The pasuk says, "Hatzneya lechet im Hashem Elokecha." Now that's not only an instruction to women to walk modestly with God. What does that mean? Most people translate the word modesty to mean only clothing. Now let me be clear. It also means clothing. Someone should not come to the Bet Knesset dressed immodestly. Whatever modesty means in dress, for women, very respectful, covering what, everything so the person is dressed in a modest way, but also for men. Imagine you see a guy walk into shul with a sleeveless, cutoff. Is that tsanua for the Bet Knesset? Now, by the way, is there a halakha that a man's arms are not allowed to be bare? No halakha. Let's say a guy is wearing a V-neck, sleeveless, crop top, right? I don't know why he would do that. We have other questions, okay? But if he did that, maybe a crop top is already a makom mechuseh, I'm not sure, probably. Right? I don't know if it's asur. We don't say that that's irva by a man. But it's for sure not a modest thing. It's for sure not a hatznei alechet, that the person is coming with modesty to the king. This is not the gym. You're not playing basketball here. To wear shorts to the Bet Knesset also. It's not necessarily an appropriate thing. And what are we seeing over here? It's avodah. That when it comes to avodah, when you're actually bringing a korban to God, I'll never forget. There was a fellow who was honored, a woman who was honored to be given the MBE. Does anyone here know what an MBE is? We have no Englishmen amongst us. A member of the, sorry? Not of the Brotherhood. Of the British Empire. You can become MBE or OBE. Both of those are a tremendous honor. And you go and the queen bestows, well, at the time, Aliyah Shalom, she would bestow. Now it would be the king or someone who's, but it's a big deal. It's a lifetime achievement award. If you have to have done incredible things in order to receive an MBE, OBE. You receive an MBE, it's the biggest day of your life. You're going to the queen, she's giving you this unbelievable honor. People are wearing the most exquisite dresses or suits or whatever they're wearing, and thinking to themselves, what for a king of Basar Vadam? But if you're coming to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, would you walk into a job interview wearing a sleeveless shirt and I don't care if the shorts are from Prada. It'll make a difference where they're from. It's not about how expensive they are. Is this the appropriate attire for a moment like this? So the first thing we're learning here is that when it comes to avodah, a person cannot have a lack of modesty. But my friends, there's also other things that are included, I believe, in a lack of modesty. You see, when the Torah tells you that this guy is revealing his nakedness on the Mizbech, but he's not revealing his nakedness. He's wearing shorts underneath. What's the answer, my friends? It's something that looks immodest. How careful do we need to be in the Beit Knesset, which is for avodah, not to do something which looks immodest? To brag in the Beit Knesset is something which is immodest. To make someone feel like they're less than you in the Beit Knesset is both immodest and arrogant. But it doesn't have a place. You walk into the Beit Knesset, a person should feel humbled. Lo ta'aleh b'ma'alot al mizbechi. A person should not be looking to be talking big about themselves in that room. It's arrogance in the Beit Knesset. That's a place that avodah doesn't belong. My friends, the first element is about that arrogance, but I think that there's something else here too. We have to learn from the fact that it's asking us not to be arrogant, but it's also telling us that there's an arrogance which is okay. And I want to focus on trying to understand what that means with the remaining few minutes that we have. Because you think about what this means. What does arrogance in Tefila mean? I love this idea. When we say the amida, we say Baruch at Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen. What do those words mean? King, Melech, Ozer, who helps. Moshia, saves. Umagen, and protects. The Chachamim explain those three definitions are God relationally to you. Let me explain. You have a person who, they have their stuff together, basically. They basically have a job. They basically have a relationship. They basically have their life in hand. But they need some help. That's Ozer. Ozer means I got some, you got some. I lift one half of the box, you lift the other half of the box. Moshiach means not that you're helping me, I'm saving you. You can't lift anything, you put your back out, you can't lift the box at all. You come round, you help me lift the box, you move the table, you move my furniture, wow, you saved me. That's Moshiach. So Moshiach relates to the fact that God sometimes has to do more than help you, he needs to save you. But then there's a third level where God is not helping you and he's not saving you. Melech Ozer Moshiach Umagen. God is shielding you, he's protecting you. And the Chachamim explain that to mean that this refers to a person that he can't handle the lift, the Ozer. It's not even enough that he should be saved by the person who's saving him. Even the idea, and this is unfortunately very, very common in today's generation, we've become an incredibly sensitive generation, and in being sensitive, we've allowed ourselves to become fragile. Those two things are not synonyms, but our generation has made them so. You could be sensitive without being fragile, but our generation is not. People are fragile. And the other day I'm listening to a phone call and someone's telling me, Rabbi, you don't know. The situation was so difficult, so stressful. I almost had an anxiety. I said, but nothing happened. The person said, yeah, but what if it would have happened? I said, but it didn't happen. Yeah, but if it would have happened, then I would have had a meltdown. We're already in a stage where we're fragile from things that haven't even happened. There are times, and it's true about a fragile person, but it's also true about a not fragile person. Because you know what? No matter who you are, and I'm talking to you, if you're listening to this, even if you think you're Superman and you think you're Superwoman, there's only so much that someone can take. You think you can carry everything, but there comes a time when blow after blow, sometimes you need that time to recover in between, where you didn't have that time. There are times when it's just too much. Even knowing about the fact that there's a problem that God's going to save me from is enough to have me break down. So you know what Hashem says? I'm going to shield you. You're not even going to know about the problem. So I'm going to come into your orbit. I'm going to protect you from even needing to save you. That's what Magen means, the Chachamim explain. The reason why I bring this, my friends, is because when a person prays, there's arrogance in the way you talk to the people around you. There's arrogance in the way you hold yourself. There's arrogance in the way you push or throw someone out of your seat. Oh, we sit over here. You go sit over somewhere else. That's arrogance. But there's also arrogance that has nothing to do with anybody else. A person could pray to God and be arrogant. You know, there's a beautiful halakha. The halakha tells us that when a person bows in the amida, how are you supposed to bow? Baruch atah Amunai. In the beginning of amida. How are you supposed to bow? Bend your knees, but that's fine. I'm not even talking about that. Right? Until achi pakeku the huliotav. Until he bends his vertebrae. So you're supposed to bend all the way over. My friends, the act of bowing is an act of submission. It's an act of humility in front of God. But you see, the halakha is telling you how much you need to bow. Why is the Torah telling you that? Why is there a halakha governing that? And the answer is because anyone who comes to pray is exhibiting some form of humility. Because you're asking for help. But says the halakha, when you're showing that humility, don't do this. That's fake humility. That's practiced humility. Bend achi pakiku until all of the vertebrae are bowed, are released, so to speak. True humility means really understanding what it is that you would be like without the gifts that God gave you. I was just learning in one of the sessions with the women's class, the 48 ways sessions that we have on Tuesday. Amazing mashal. You know, imagine someone, because people find it hard to be humble. They do. People find it hard, especially if they're very accomplished, they're very wealthy, they're very successful, they're very bright. So it's hard for them to really be humble. You know why? Because they don't really believe it. Oh, you know, I'm not so special. Actually, I have the awards to prove otherwise, right? You have people that don't, so it's hard for them to be genuinely humble because of their successes. I saw the most amazing mashal. Imagine there's a poor man, and a man comes to him, he gives him $100. Now he sees this man in the street, what does he feel? He feels grateful, he feels humbled. The guy gave me a $100 donation. Thank you so much. Gave me charity. Imagine the guy he gave you $1,000. How would you feel now if you saw him? Even more humbled, indebted. How about if the guy gave you $1 million? Forget it, you wouldn't even know what to say. You could barely open your mouth. The more he gave you, the more humbled you'd be in his presence. If you're smart and clever and successful, you have a great personality, amazing, charisma, dynamic, that means that God gave you more and more and more and more and more. Now you're seeing the person that gave you so, you should be 1,000,000 times more humbled by virtue of the fact that he needed to give you even more. What a flipped way of seeing this. You know what God decided about me? That if he did not give me in such a magnificent way, I would not have been able to make life work. That other guy, God gave $5 to. You know why he gave him $5? Because God knows about him that he could handle with just $5 in his pocket. The more God gives you, the more humbled you are. Says the pasuk, David HaMelech says, Ma ashiv LaHashem. What will I say to Hashem? What will I give to Hashem? Kol tagmulo hi alai. He's given me everything. So when a person comes to pray, and you're praying the amida, if you feel like this guy, the jacket, pocket square, praying to Hashem, and you bow, but you make sure you didn't crease the jacket, you kind of miss the point. You're bringing your arrogance into the avodah. When you're asking Hashem for something, if you're under asking from God, listen, if you're under asking from God, you're arrogant. Because you're saying to Hashem, I don't need you for any of those things. I only need you for this. True humility means that you ask not only for the things that you don't have, but you ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to continue giving you the things that you do. That's a recognition that I don't have it because of me. I I have because of him. Lo ta'aleh b'ma'alot al mizbechi. When it comes time for the avodah, don't come with arrogance. Don't come with pride, and come with that modesty. But my friends, as we said earlier, it says clearly here that there are times when there's no mitzvah. If it's not the avodah, there's times when a person needs that arrogance. Right? In the Kodesh Kodashim, Psiah Yetera, not Asur. The Kodesh, only in the avodah. The answer is, my friends, that when it comes to the things that surround, that support the avodah, a person might need a tremendous amount of self-confidence. You know, once you're in the shul, you're amongst your own. Everybody in the shul is like you, like we say, singing to the choir. Once you're already in the kosher restaurant, it's not hard to be sitting in the kosher restaurant. Where is it hard? It's hard when you're having the conversation with your friends who are not eating kosher. You're going to a certain, thing, a kenes, a thing, a hitorarut of classes. Everyone else is going to the game, and you want to go to this. Oh, wow, you're so religious now. What happened? Who brainwashed you? When it comes to the avodah itself, there the person needs to be truly humble. Because in the avodah, you're standing opposite God. I don't know if you know, some of you I'm sure do. When we take 3 steps back in the amida, we say, Oseh shalom miromav, hu brachamav oseh shalom aleinu. Every time when you do everything else in Judaism, what comes first, right or left? Right. Turn right. Right? Everything's with it. Every bracha, you make a bracha, you hold the object of the bracha in your right hand. It's halakha. Netilat yadayim. Right? Everything. Right comes first. So why oseh shalom left? So Simon is telling you, beautiful answer, because you're facing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So your bowing to the left is bowing to his right. But my friends, there's something so special in that I think people don't understand. Because sometimes people hear that and they're like, oh, okay, it's my left because that's his right, and so it's still the right, but it's like his right. It's not a technical answer. What you're saying is, in prayer, I defer my right to his right. That's what you're saying. If in the act of Tefila I come with humility, with modesty, I recognize that my strength is nothing compared to his strength. And his hand, Yemin Amonai Romema, Yemin Amonai Osachaya, God's right is his power. That represents when God is doing things with a powerful way. So I bow to my left to indicate that I am weak and he is strong. That's one answer. The second answer is, when it comes to shalom, true strength is shown in vulnerability. Oseh shalom, left. Because everyone who's trying to use their strength when it comes to making peace actually winds up without any peace. Second answer. But my friends, the third answer is the beautiful answer that we're saying here today. That in the avodah, a person can't have that. Outside the avodah, what does a person need? They need to be able to have azut kedusha, a strength. Oh, come on. Yeah, whatever. You do you. You do you. Let me do me. This is important to me. This is what I'm going to do. Sir, please don't go sit over here. Do that. Eat this. I'm really sorry, sir. Can you just have? No, I can't have that. I'm sorry. I have to have the kosher meal. Sir, can I just give you the vegetarian? Would that be okay? No, ma'am. Thank you so much for offering the vegetarian, but I ordered the kosher meal. Oh, sorry, sir. We gave it to someone else. You'll have to have the vegetarian. I've heard this. I said, thank you very much. I'm not going to have anything. I appreciate it. It's okay that if someone made a mistake, no problem. Because someone else made a mistake doesn't mean I'm also going to make a mistake. Azut, the Kedusha. You have to be able to stand up for yourself. That's not the time to back down for modesty or anything else. That's the time to actually stand proud. You didn't put tefillin on yet. The other day, I was in the Bet Knesset, and a young man walked up to me. After Mincha was over, he said, Rabbi, I just remembered, I didn't put on tefillin. Who's going to be man enough in the shul to put tefillin on between Mincha and Arbit? Because it's not yet nightfall. It's embarrassing, isn't it? But the boy knew this is the right thing to do. There are many situations like this. Hashem should bless us always to reserve our strength for when it should be needed, our self-confidence to when it should be needed, but to also give us enough strength and power to be able to subdue that power in a place where it's not appropriate. You bring your confidence into a family fight, your arrogance into a family fight, you ain't going nowhere with that. Right? There, say shalom, you need to go left. Hashem should bless us to understand and to know when to use each one of our amidot in the right way, in the right time. Baruch Adonai Le'olam.